Okay, we are going to get started. I know that your time is precious. I'm going to pass it over to Andrew to jump start things today.
Well, thank you so much, Caroline, and thanks to everybody who is on this call live and also will be watching on the post-event video. I'm Andrew Campanella, President and CEO of the National School Choice Awareness Foundation, which hosts National School Choice Week each year. And joining me today are our team members, Noelle Delaney, our Vice President of Events and Partnerships, and Shelby Doyle, who is our Vice President of Public Awareness, as well as the incredible team at the Stop Foundation and the Yass Foundation, who are planning and implementing what I think is one of the most innovative and exciting programs out there. Over the last 12 years, a lot of groups have reached out to us at National School Choice Week and asked us to share with our broader network the work that they do. And frequently, most often, we decline because it's usually related to either advocacy, which we do not do and have never done, or it is related to something that doesn't have a tangible value to our partners, and we don't want to clog people's inboxes, or it really doesn't gel or align with our mission, which really is positive and inclusive. Well, when I saw information about the Stop Awards and the Yass Prize online, I thought, wow, I have not yet in 12 years seen something that aligns so nicely with the work that we do and the work that our partners do. And I wanted to let you know about this opportunity, not because we're partnering with them on anything other than this, which is the truth. We're just letting you know about this because I think it's super cool and can be incredibly beneficial. So you'll hear all about the Stop Awards and the Yass Prize today and the foundations that run these grants. And what I want you to know is that this is exciting because this provides additional resources to great schools and great education providers of all types, just like we focus on at School Choice Week, public, charter, magnet, private, online, home, and other providers as well, to accelerate the great and innovative work that they are doing to help kids learn, thrive, succeed, and be happy all across this country. And we want people to know about that. And we want our partners who participate in School Choice Week, our school partners, to hopefully benefit from some of these resources. And the resources that this new foundation is providing are really substantial. And you'll hear about that today. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I hope you'll learn more about this and I hope you'll check it out. I think it could be a great opportunity for a lot of your participating schools and also education providers. I'm going to jump off the call now and let Caroline take it over.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate that introduction and really appreciate your whole team, Shelby and Noelle, and your partnership. I'm going to jump right in. So I'm going to screen share and present. Okay. So as Andrew mentioned, my name is Caroline. I am the Vice President of the Yass Prize and the Stop Awards. I'll talk a little bit about the difference between those two. And I'm excited for you to be all with us here today. The purpose of today is to really, give you tools in order to promote this to schools or education providers that you think would be good candidates for this award, or if you yourself are a school, hopefully giving you some excitement and encouragement to apply yourself. This is a brief overview of what we're going to accomplish. I hope to answer all of your questions. And if I do not answer your question, feel free to think about it. And then at the end, I'll open it up to questions in the chat. So last year, the Stop Award was founded, and it was founded by an extremely generous benefactor who wanted to give back to schools based on the awesome work that we knew schools were doing, really in response to the COVID pandemic. We knew that there were a lot of schools closed, and yet there were other schools that were maybe open or doing really tangible and creative and innovative things to keep kids learning in a way that was super important during a time of extreme stress and turmoil around our country. And so last year, we recognized 20 different education providers with over $3.5 million and really brought together a network and a community of different voices from all around the country and to break down those silos and to really get them all in a room collaborating with one another, connecting and sharing. And that was really the true beauty of our experience last year. It wasn't just about the funding, it was about the experience and the exposure that we gave our award winners. So flash forward to this year, we are tripling our impact, which we're really excited about. This is going to be the first year of the Yass Prize, which is our top $1 million award that goes to like the exemplar, the best education provider that exudes our 4 attributes, which I'll talk about next. But then equally as important, we have the 63 Stop Awards. And so the only thing that makes these 2 prizes or awards different is the amount of funding the education provider will receive. For the Yass Prize, it's the $1 million funding. And for the Stop Awards, the minimum prize is $100,000. And of course, we're recognizing 63 of them. So we're recognizing a huge, huge number. The one thing that aligns all of our award winners are these 4 attributes: sustainable, transformational, outstanding, and permissionless. And we truly feel at the Yass Prize that schools need to have these 4 attributes or be working towards these 4 attributes in order to give what kids deserve and what families deserve. So I'll talk briefly about each one and then happy to answer questions at the end if there's any follow-ups. So for sustainable, we truly believe that schools should have a diverse way of receiving funding. So while our prize does obviously give funding, we don't want schools to rely solely on one type of funding in order to be sustainable. And if schools or education providers are not yet sustainable, how are they working towards being sustainable? For transformational, we know that there are a lot of 21st century tools and research and technologies that are out there. But how is a school using it and utilizing these tools in transformative ways? So it's not just about giving all kids an iPad. We know that many schools had to do that in response to the pandemic. But what are they doing with that iPad? How is that iPad transforming the learning experience? Maybe kids are accessing their education through a gaming like multiverse, or maybe there's a tutoring or a mentoring model that's brought directly into the school day that's transforming relationships and our mental health crisis in our country. So that this transformative piece is truly about innovation. Outstanding is pretty self-explanatory. However, we don't define how you define outstanding. We really want to think about what is your secret sauce? What makes you different than every other education provider out there? And we're not looking for one type of data, whether it be qualitative or quantitative, but really what speaks to how successful you are as an education provider. And then permissionless is our final attribute. And that really talks about the fact that we believe that schools should make decisions that are best for kids and best for families, on their own, or as much on their own as possible. Rock by Rock, one of our finalists from last year, is a great example of this. They created 2 years worth of project-based learning kits in 5 months in order to give homeschool families curriculum that they really needed. If they had to ask for permission to do that, they would have never been able to complete that project in warp speed. And so if say a traditional school district has some regulatory bodies or has a school board, it's, that can't be changed overnight. But how are you working or advocating towards more of a permissionless model? 3 other benefits that make our Yass Prize really unique are these 3 things, and I want to briefly touch on them. The first is the accelerator, and I'm definitely going to ask Beth about this in a short minute. But the accelerator is a 4-week business boot camp that all semifinalists will engage in. 3 weeks virtual, 1 week in person. And this is really an opportunity for semifinalists to get to know one another, to have conversations, and to hear from the best of the best in the fields of education, business, communications, editorial. We really partner with our media partner, which is Forbes, to give exposure and access to, as I said, the best of the best in the business. And the purpose of the accelerator is really to take the good work that you're doing and to make it even stronger. And so many of our semifinalists last year talked about that an idea that they had or a conversation that they had during the accelerator completely changed the trajectory in a great way for their organization. We also have our alumni community, and we'll be growing our alumni community with this new cohort. And this is really an opportunity to join our network of innovative thought partners who around the country are trying to change the type of education kids are receiving. And then, as I said, Forbes is our media partner, and all of our award winners have access to Forbes summits, which happen throughout the year in different places around the country. And that's a great opportunity to not only learn some new tidbits, but also gain exposure and meet other amazing professionals in the field and outside of the field of education. Just a quick logistical timeline. We have our application for this year's award, which is due on July 15th. There will be no deadline this year, and this is the only time this year that our award application process will be open. And then you'll see below how we're going to be announcing, starting with the 64 quarterfinalists, then cutting that group in half to the semifinalists, and then 5 finalists, and then our winner will be announced at the end of the year before we start the whole process over again next year. So it is with great gratitude that Beth is joining us today. Beth is the Vice President for Strategic Initiatives at Partnership for Inner City Education in New York City. She's the real MVP of this call because I'm excited for her to share, and all of her experiences and ways that, and give you some insight, hopefully, into why this award is so fantastic and has been for Partnership. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to spotlight. Okay, perfect. So Beth, start off with introducing yourself. How did you get involved in education? And can you tell us a little bit about the work you do at Partnership?
Well, thank you, Caroline. And first of all, it's so tacky to start an interview by correcting your host, but the Partnership Schools is in New York and Cleveland. So we run 11 Catholic schools. And we are an organization that's trying to change the way that Catholic schools are governed, managed, and run, particularly in under-resourced neighborhoods where they face sustainability challenges. So we have 7 schools in New York, in the South Bronx, East Harlem, and Harlem, and we have, as of last week, we announced 4 schools in Cleveland. So yeah, can't forget Cleveland there, Caroline.
Yep.
So, in brief, I think I hope that the value of putting organizations' hat in the ring to possibly get $1 million to further their mission is self-explanatory, and folks see the value of that. I would say, ironically, it is often organizations who are in their scrappy startup phase who can most benefit from the resources that the STOP Awards and the Yass Prize have to offer, and are often least well positioned organizationally to take the time to apply for opportunities like the Yass Prize. So I think as you're talking to people who you think would be great folks to apply for this, or if you're considering applying for your organization, I would just assure you that it's worth the time. We have, I think we were able to hone our pitch for other donors as well in working on our pitch for the STOP Awards. And the accelerator gave us an opportunity to connect with lots of folks from different sectors, which I think is a relatively rare opportunity. You can sort of tell that the progressive charter school in Louisiana, hanging out with the parent advocacy organization from San Francisco, and also connecting with, like a couple of Christian schools and a for-profit education content developer. that's the kind of get together that you don't often see in the world of education. We tend to be pretty stovepiped into our different areas. So I found the most valuable aspect of the accelerator to be meeting with the other folks in my cohort and swapping ideas among each other.
Awesome. And what can you tell a little bit, like without, diving into your application, what is something that partnership did that maybe connects directly with one of our four principles? So either sustainable, transformational, outstanding, and permissionless. Can you tell us a little bit more maybe about one of those?
Yeah. So Catholic schools represent the single largest capacity for educational choice in the country that could be stood up very quickly. And Catholic schools exist already in working class and low income neighborhoods. So we had to make a case for the sustainability of that model over time, particularly when some folks have heard that Catholic schools have closed in recent decades. So we focused on the way in which our model is leveraging schools that exist in a non-school choice state, New York, with schools that exist in a school choice state, Ohio, to further the advancement of both. So we talked about how we were, sort of functioning within the school choice space. I think we also emphasized that we're doing something that no other organization is doing. We had the advantage in some ways of reacting to COVID in our application. My hunch is that 2022 applicants will get a chance to do that too, but COVID was a time of a lot of permissionless educational innovation because there was no one to ask permission of, right? Like we all had to just figure out how to do the thing. So we emphasized the way in which we worked with our families to find out the model of education they wanted, which caused us to offer 5-day-a-week in-person education for any family who wanted it from the very beginning of the 2020 school year. So I think maybe that sustainable piece and that permissionless piece might have been the two key components of our application.
That's fantastic. You talked a little bit about the non-tangible things that you gained from the STOP award, particularly the accelerator. You were able to hone your pitch, engage and collaborate with others. But then there's also the financial piece, right? The financial, which is huge and rewarding, not only to reward your past work, but to amplify current or future work. So how did you spend the earnings that you did from the STOP award last year?
We used it to help support the professional development that we're giving teachers to address the very real needs we have right now of kids who, so I should preface this by saying 1 out of every 3 of our students in New York was new to Catholic school this past year. So just like every school, we were dealing with some of the transitions that kids were having back from remote learning to in-person learning. And we were also managing a third of our students being new to the kind of culture in our schools. So we used the prize to help support the professional development that helps our teachers answer that increased range of needs brought on by the pandemic.
And just as a follow-up, this is a prize, right? Not necessarily a grant. So with that, I'm saying that there's like no strings attached to the funding. I mean, yes, we want schools and education providers to further it to benefit kids, which Beth just alluded to. But it's not a grant per se of we're looking for like a report or an after action report to say like, how did you line by line like spend this money? That is not going to be the case with the Yass prize. And because we want to live out our vision of permissionless. That you don't have to ask for us for permission to use the money in a certain way based on how you see fit. And Beth, one final question, and then I might open it up to others who have questions. You mentioned some barriers to applying. Schools might not have time. It's the end of the school year. You might be a scrappy startup and not just have the bandwidth or the team power to get something like this done. What would be your devil's advocate response to all of those barriers?
I want to add another barrier, which is people don't often go into education because they enjoy bragging about their own work, right? like most of the educators I know, if anything, tend to undersell the impact of their work. So my hunch is that one of the barriers for applicants is people who are thinking, well, what we're doing isn't that permissionless. I mean, we're a charter school, or we don't know if what we're doing is sustainable. We started up 6 months ago. So I would say that mindset of kind of talking yourself out of meeting the criteria is probably the first barrier to overcome. We could tell you 6 reasons why we thought, like if they don't give us an award, it's going to be for one of these 6 reasons. Do it anyway. Like, give them the opportunity to say no. Don't say no before they get a chance to. Would be sort of my first bit of encouragement there. I don't know what to tell you other than that people who work in education nonprofit spaces tend to be able to find slivers of oxygen and energy that mere mortals cannot usually find in order to advance their work. And in this case, I would say, particularly given the number of prizes that are offered this year, the possibility of the return on the investment of the time has gone up. I wish we were applying this year rather than last year. So I would just encourage folks to do what educators always do and social justice innovators always do, which is figure out a way to make it work.
And just a follow up, the average time that it took to complete the application last year was between 4 and 8 hours. So we're not asking for, your 6-month biography or new videos or anything. It's a pretty straightforward application. So we hope that makes it even more accessible for applicants. Oh yeah, I have 2 more slides, quick slides, and then I will open it up to questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions, or I might pass them over to Beth if she's better suited to answer a question. So here's how, here are some ways that you can help support us. We have found by and large that personalized emails are really important versus like a mass email. And so if you have like 3 to 5 schools or 5 to 10 schools that you think would be excellent candidates, I would encourage you to reach out to them one-on-one. Also, promoting on your social media platforms is a really nice way to cast a wide net to leverage your networks. Following this call, I'm going to support you all by giving our social media toolkit, which has ready to go tweets, graphics, and things so that you do not have to create them yourselves. I also have weekly office hours every Wednesday for potential applicants. If someone wants to hop on, ask a quick question about eligibility or the application, it's informal. You don't need to sign up. So I'll include information for that. And then we have a webinar on June 14th talking about the accelerator in more depth. And so that would be a great thing to sign up for. If you want to learn more, if your networks want to learn more, you can register for that. And then the recording will be sent out after it happens. So at this time, Beth and I have done a lot of talking, but we would love to open it up to any questions. Feel free to write your question in the chat, or feel free to come off Zoom and ask it directly of myself and or Beth. Angela, I agree that ready to go kits are we wanted to make it really easy for you. So there's like 5 tweets that you can just send off in addition to graphics. So hopefully that will make it easy, and I'll email you all that media toolkit right after this. What questions?
How many applications have you received in the past? How competitive is the process?
Yeah, it's a great question. So last year, again, as Beth alluded to, we only had 20 award winners, and we had roughly about 1,000 applications. And because we had to turn away so many inspiring stories, we wanted to up the ante this year. So this year we have 64 awards, over $10 million. So I bet we'll get a similar number of applications, but obviously, if an education provider has a really exciting story or a really exciting initiative, we encourage the application. Great question. There also is a place on the application if they applied last year and didn't win or weren't a part of our 20 cohort, that to say you applied last year. So even if someone was a past applicant, we still encourage you to reapply. Other questions or thoughts, feel free to put anything in the chat or just come off mute like Kate did. Yes. Is it Luis or Lewis? I want to make sure I get it right.
Luis or Lewis is fine.
Okay, Luis, I will definitely follow up in an email to all of you with that media toolkit and the office hours, and I'll include the Zoom link. For the office hours, people do not need to register, so they can just hop on. It's really informal, like a group like this, and then people just ask their questions. And a lot of times people learn from other people's questions. And so that will be tomorrow and every Wednesday leading up to the application deadline of July 15th. So I will include all that information this afternoon in an email to you all.
Thank you.
Of course.
This is a quirky question, Caroline. I logged in. I noticed you were using the Education Reform U platform. Can you just tell me what's the connection? Because I actually was in the first group, the first inaugural group in the Education Reform U like years ago, many years ago, and I haven't seen it in so long. And so I'm just wondering, what's the connection there?
That's a great question. So this award is powered by the Center for Education Reform, which means that they are supporting this work, both in terms of their team, but not necessarily in terms of resources. So a benefactor on the board of CER is Janine and Jeff Yass are the masterminds behind this award. So it's powered by Center for Education Reform in partnership with Forbes Media, Yass Prize, and the Stop Awards. So we have a lot of different names going on, but it's all there to, make the competition even more exciting and powerful for our award winners.
Well, and cozy. I felt like I was coming home when I was logging in. So thank you very much for that.
Of course, great question. In our final minute, any other questions? Wonderful. Well, Beth, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that I can share about the award, but you and your schools in Ohio and New York both, benefited so greatly. And we loved hearing your story and your experience and your dose of inspiration to our partners. And thank you so much all for taking the time. We, again, just really want this information to get out there to as many education providers and all around our country. And so the more that you could help us with that, it's benefiting students around our country. So I will be following up with an email by 5 p.m. today to you all. And if there is any other things that we can provide to make your work of helping to promote this easier, please, please, please reach out. And with that being said, I appreciate your time. I'll follow up with this recording as well. And if there's any other questions, please feel free to email. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.